Hello, hello, hello. This is Talking Manchester United, and thank you all for tuning in once again. Today I have a couple of guests with me. You'll be familiar with them. They're becoming podcast regulars. So let's start with the guy across the pond, Mr. Andrew Southwick. Andrew, how are you, my friend?
You know what? I'm still in Texas, and you know what? It's not that bad. It's not. People can talk crap about a lot of places. I don't think you talk crap about Texas because primarily they'll kill you if you do.
Fair enough. Also joining us today, we have Martin Pert, the gentleman who's done the graphics for us since we disassociated ourselves with the United stand. Martin, thanks for joining us. How are you, my friend?
Wish I was in Texas. Texas is going to be
Good.
better than Newcastle. I'm good. I'm good. Disassociated. God, that sounds like we've come like that weave that took control. I like it.
Well, you know. But you're good though. You're good.
I am. I am good. I am probably. I'm going to be really careful that I don't go into any sort of ranting or anything like that. But you never know. You never know. I'm good, but frustrated, shall we say?
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think a lot of United fans will share that same emotion. And also joining us, last but not least, Matthew McFadden. How are you, pal?
Like Martin, I'm pretty good despite the absolute shocker that was the result.
Yes. I think we all feel the same there.
Yep.
Okay, so for the benefit of you guys and obviously everybody who's listening, we will be talking about Astana. We'll be talking about West Ham. We'll talk a little bit about the fan reactions over the last few days following those two results. Also, we'll look at the recent club statement that was released and some details of the conference call that Ed Woodward was on today with investors. So let's dive straight into it then, and let's start off with the two games we've played in the week since we last recorded. The 1-0 victory at home to Astana in the UEFA Europa League, a solitary Greenwood goal giving us the 3 points there, and then the 2-0 defeat against West Ham. And before I jump straight into you guys, let's take it to Twitter first of all. After the Astana game, we did put out a tweet saying the boys kick off their Europa League campaign with the 1-0 victory at home against Astana. Give us your thoughts on the performance below. So we had a few replies. Michael Stow, Astana are not good. That being said, 11 guys who have never played together controlled the game. 4 youth players on the biggest stage of their career were impressive. Rashford is not a finisher, Greenwood is. Gomez must be the CAM. Enjoyed watching. Sean Pring says Ollie needs to stop beating around the bush and put Greenwood as striker for 90 minutes. Rashford missed multiple chances in the first half. Greenwood would have likely netted them. And Adrian P. We lack creativity in the midfield and a natural goal scorer. So mixed emotions there. Guys, I'll throw it out to you now. Any one of you can jump in at any point. For me, 2 very disappointing performances. Can we take any positives from them?
See, I strongly disagree that Astana was a disappointment. I mean, we've been clamoring for youth to get a chance, and we got that. We were clamoring for in the Europa League games for them to play fringe players. We got that, and they've got to play together and learn to play together, and we got that. We controlled every bit of that game. I mean, they had a couple of okay chances, but did they really threaten us? No. And overall, I would say that, while we didn't have any like clear, like cut real, like significant, goal scoring chances besides, like some balls that hit the bar and then Mason Greenwood having to come up with individual brilliance to score that goal. I mean, we kind of got a little bit of everything in that game. Just the only thing we're missing is a little bit of creativity, in that final little bit. And you're not going to get You're not going to expect the kids that we haven't really seen play go out there and just ball out, unless just something crazy happened. Like they've got to all grow into the game a little bit. The only person that really disappointed me a little bit in the game was Tahith Chong. Tahith Chong didn't seem like he had the confidence that we've seen him have before. And I mean, everybody else, to me, I think impressed. I mean, Nemanja Matic, somebody that I don't think any of us care for, was not that great. I mean, he was not that great. He was good. I mean, Angel Gomez, I thought was very creative at the number 10 position, possibly earned himself some game time at the 10. Mason Greenwood looks like the real deal. Just need to play him through the middle and play him as a 9. I think we got everything we could have wanted, besides the fact that, Marcus Rashford missed 3-4 clear-cut goal-scoring opportunities. Besides that, we dominated that game. And we should have won that game 4-5-0.
I think I do agree with you. Okay, yeah, so the positives are we have seen the youth. We've seen Chong, Gomez and Greenwood all play in that game. We've seen Tuanzebe play in that game. Okay, yeah, that's a positive. But I think when you look at those three attacking players, for example, Chong, Gomez and Greenwood, it's not the first time they've ever played together. They've played hundreds of games together through the youth setup. And we go on about, this is going to sound like I'm dissing them, and but I'm not. I'm just stating, this is Astana. If we're going on about bringing these players through, saying that they're good enough, they have to be doing a lot better than that against a team like Astana. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we dominated the game, rightly so. Yeah, we had 20-odd shots, rightly so. Yeah, we had 70% possession, 90% pass accuracy. That's the bare minimum at home against Astana. 7 shots on target. Seven shots on target in 90 minutes is horrendous when you've got those players on the pitch who are supposedly good enough. That's what I'm saying.
Look, if Rashford scores at least one of his chances in the first half, if that shot from Fred goes in, doesn't hit the bar, let's say we're 2-0 up after 20 minutes, Astana's game plan changes, they're not going to sit back. But I agree with you, Paul, is that in terms of what we had on the pitch, we should have won that game comfortably. I feel that between the lines of the defence and the forwards, we are so lacking in creativity. I mean, it was so slow, the build-up. We always look comfortable in the third half of the pitch, but it's fine to be comfortable when you're 3 or 4-0 up. Was that Astana actually nearly scored a couple of times, so the writing was on the wall there. And then obviously before we move on to the West Ham game, as soon as the Astana game finishes, and I'm thinking about West Ham, I wasn't confident at all about the West Ham game.
No, and people can say, if Rashford scores 2 of those goals, 2 of those sitters that he missed, if Fred's shot went in, we wouldn't be complaining as much. Obviously not, because the scoreline then finishes 4-0. But it doesn't change the fact that, that's still 7 shots on target. It's still underwhelming. For large parts of that game, we are still sat there thinking, come on, what the hell is this? What the hell is going on? But the fact is, it didn't. It finished 1-0. And for me, it was a very frustrating... At the end of that game, I wasn't happy. And I don't think a single person can say at the end of that game they were happy. Matthew, what are your thoughts?
Just thought it was a really disappointing game, to be honest. I think when the team news came out, we were thinking, oh yeah, this is good. We've got, that front 3 that we want. Excusing Rashford, of course, but we just looked pretty slow. We weren't really playing to the team's strengths. I don't know why we were constantly going out wide when we got Rashford, who flinches every single time the ball comes near and across, and Gomez. I'm not too sure what really our plan was tactically, why we didn't really get the best out of players, but yeah, I think the only real positive is Greenwood actually getting that goal. It was so Robin Van Persie-like, that finish. I just thought
it's funny
he didn't have a great deal of chances.
I put a tweet out. No, actually, I didn't put a tweet out. That's a lie. I quoted someone's tweet from my personal account because they said exactly what I've been thinking for a while. That whenever I see Greenwood play, just the way he moves the ball, his body shape is just so RVP-esque.
And it's not like he's someone who's trying too hard to be like him, in the sense that Rashford maybe tries a little bit too hard to be like Ronaldo. It just comes natural for Greenwood.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least if he's trying to do that, it looks natural. Provers that he does, he always looks up and then half a second later, bang, he always takes a shot. And it's just so much like RVP, even when he was at Arsenal as well. But yeah, have that forward to getting a chance from absolutely nothing. It's going to be massive for this season, despite him only being 17. But yeah, in terms of positives, I think Greenwood really was the only positive. Didn't have a great deal of the ball, but when he had the ball, he was pretty good. Chong it wasn't his best game, but I'm seeing people completely write him off after this. And I think it's a little bit too early to say that. What I really like about Chong, to put in a tackle, he's not afraid to get a card. He's someone who mentally, technically sometimes he might lack stuff, but mentally he's absolutely brilliant. Like, he's not afraid to put himself into tackles and really get in the face of his opposition. Whenever he gets the ball, he looks up and just drives straight towards him. And yeah, it wasn't his best game, but I think it's just way too early to write him off.
You've got to think in the under 23s and in the youth teams, how often are those players going to come up against an opposition who are setting out? Do you know what I mean? It's true. You know, the youth players have had some criticism in terms of that game, but you've got to imagine for Chong and all them, they're so used to having a free open play and an attacker team or a team's going to attack them. That'll be one of the first games or a taste of a big game, big crowd, and the opposition just sits back. And you can run out of ideas, but then for me, that's when your experienced players need to step up. Your likes of Matic, who, you know, that game should have been won and lost in the midfield, and we should have been quicker on the ball whenever we did get the chance to break. The times where Astana, in our final third, far too long for the cross to come in. They always got their chance. It never got broken down where they were caught out. Every chance that they had either resulted in a save, kick, a goal kick, or a corner. So they were back. They were able to set up again. If you're going to play on this counter-attacking play, you've got to get in quicker in terms of the midfield and nick the ball, and then you use those attacking players. So I think the likes of Chong was probably nullified a little bit, and it just wasn't the game for him to come into. Fair enough, Greenwood took his chance, and Gomez playing as in that position was always going to get on the ball. I'm pleased that those young players got those minutes on the pitch. My only disappointment is they weren't taken earlier on, and it didn't allow those players that freedom in the last 30 minutes. We were clinging on to get a goal as opposed to comfortable, good performance, allowing them to get some confidence. That there's not really much more, on that game. But I think some fans need to take it easy on some of the youth players and saying and writing them off. I totally disagree with that.
Writing them off is definitely something we shouldn't do. But I just do think that, considering the opposition, they should have done a little bit better. But again, it's like you say, it's the first game, for them in that sort of environment. It's a learning curve. We move on. Speaking of moving on, let's move on to the West Ham game. Now, very much like Astana, we lacked any sort of quality and creativity in both midfield and attack, really. It's a very bad loss. And what annoys me the most is that lack of defensive concentration for their goal was made into a focal point unnecessarily due to that lack of quality we got up front. You think of the best defences we've had over the years. I'm talking Pallister Bruce, Ferdinand Vidic, Smalling Jones. I'm just waiting for someone to say something there. I've just mentioned best defences, and I've just mentioned Smalling and Jones,
yep.
And not one of you have said a thing.
Because you're dealing with
Nothing to say about them.
Obviously, exclude the last two. What I'm saying is that those defences will have lapses of concentration like that from time to time. It's natural, it happens. But the point is that you have an attack that can take that focus off of you by playing good attacking football and scoring goals, especially against weaker opposition like this. But once again, it's just not there. and that contributed to the loss. What are your thoughts, guys? West Ham 2-0.
I think the most infuriating thing was the fact that West Ham didn't even really play at 100%. About West Ham, and he was saying, yeah, he did enough to win the game, but he didn't do anything amazing. And that's a team who usually start the season in horrendous form and to usually finish, top half of the table at best. The fact that we've gone there and lost 2-0, and they've not even played at full capacity, just says a lot about how terrible we are on the day. I just don't think anything really came off. Rounds a pretty toothless performance. I think Rashford, to play every single game, I think is just all and only, to be honest. Now, I know we've had a few injuries here and there, but he needs to be careful what he does with Rashford. Reach that potential and reach a level like some of us still think he can. He needs to manage him a bit better because Rashford's going to suffer from burnout, just like a lot of players over time, specifically Michael Owen has done. He was this huge, promising youngster and was amazing at young ages, and then once he hit 21, 22, 23, that's it. They feel like they can't play anymore because they've just been overworked. And I think that's the biggest issue with Rashford, in the fact that he came off. Outlines that issue, and have us having to bring on Lingard as a striker. But how little depth we have up front.
Yeah, that was definitely a very low point in the game when we had to bring on Lingard.
Like we spent what 890 million since Fergie retired, and we're having to play Jesse Lingard as a lone striker. It's pretty sad days, but
that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, you look at the starting 11 when that came up on a weekend. I already had a feeling that we were either going to get a draw, like a 0-0 draw, or I thought West Ham were gonna get the win.
I had no hope for the result, to be honest.
Yeah, but I mean the state of that first 11, and then you look at the bench and you've got Chong, you've got Gomez on there, but and this is you can't really pinpoint and say the manager's got what he's got to pick there, and he's got to consider the amount of games that's coming up. It's that start on at West Ham is so bad. It's one of the worst, the worst teams. And as you say, Rashford being the focal point of that team, and he's not even firing at the minute. I dread to think what we're going to look like in 2 or 3 months' time, because there's not a lot of depth there. So a couple of injuries. Okay, we're missing Pogba. But do you think if Pogba comes in that midfield on the weekend, we win that game comfortably? No, it's still a struggle, because at the minute Pogba can't string a 5-yard pass together. It's so frustrating watching him when he's fit. Never mind not having him in the team. So, but this is probably something we're going to talk about later on. Is what our expectation is in terms of the season, in terms of the games that we're going to play and we're going to pick up.
But yeah, we'll definitely come on to that shortly. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dan. I don't know if you want to carry on.
No, it's fine. Yeah. No, it's just, as I say, I think there's going to be more games like this coming up, and I think people shouldn't be surprised that we struggle in all the competitions that we've got, because the depth isn't there, and this team is so new and so young that if we put too much expectation on and think, oh, we are going to string a load of wins together and we're going to go on a run, it's a case of in its infancy. So I can be frustrated with the performance, but but we were playing good football. Fair enough, that's something else to talk about, but it was so bad from the front all the way to the back. Like, the performance wasn't there. You can run your heart out and lose 2-0, or you can turn up and not perform at all against the team. Well, is absolutely atrocious. Like West Ham starting 11 on paper is worse than ours, but you would think that they had turned us over. It was just we played so badly.
I mean, we got bullied by Mark Noble and Yarmolenko. That just says how terrible we were in the day.
Exactly.
Where Mark Noble had 9 touches on the edge of the box, and there was 2 people next to him, and it's like, why don't you just go forward and tackle him? He's not exactly Ronaldinho. I'm dispossessing, but no, we just leave him to do whatever he wants.
I just felt we were out of ideas. It was like, well, this is sort of a plan. This is how we're going to play. And then the first goal went in, and I had absolutely zero confidence from that point that we were going to get anything out of that game.
I'm keen to get Andrew's thoughts as well, because so far Andrew's been the voice of positivity at the moment with his assessment of the Astana game and some of the positives that brought. Andrew, I challenge you to pick a positive for the West Ham game.
Listen, there wasn't really any positives for the West Ham game. I can't bring them up, but the problem that I have is that people at the beginning of the season were clamoring about how this is on the Glazers this season. This is on Woodward this season. The fact that we didn't get the replacements in. And people are turning on Ollie because he didn't get reinforcements and players that he would have wanted. We didn't get midfield players, and I mean, look at the midfield that he put out. He's doing what he can with what he has. Never mind the fact that we're now dealing with an injury crisis, and we didn't get in anybody to help out with that. It's so frustrating to me to see that people are just going at the guy when originally at the beginning of the season, everybody was saying, when we wind up finishing 8th, this is on Woodward in the board. Like, this is 100% on them that Ollie's having to go out there and play Nemanja Matic and play Jesse Lingard as a striker when Martial and Marcus Rashford go down with injuries, and then Mason Greenwood's out sick. Like, I'm sorry. There's a massive problem with that. And yes, Romelu Lukaku and Alexis Sanchez were sold, and no replacements were brought in. They were sold after the window was shut in England, which, in my opinion, is a stupid thing, and I'm glad that that's changing. But what is the man supposed to do besides go out there and then play the inexperienced players that, if correctly from everybody in the quote-unquote Ollie out camp, they were blaming the youth that they didn't play well against Astana. But then when they don't play the youth against West Ham, who are a far better club than Astana, basically West Ham make Astana look like, West Ham look like Man City compared to Astana. I mean, good God, what do you want? Do you want the youth to play and then expect, maybe some inexperience and some dumb things to happen? Or do you want to see the experienced players play and then, when things don't work out, it's on them? At the end of the day, it's all on everybody that is in charge of making decisions for transfers. It's on them what's going on. It's on them. I have no fault with Ollie besides the fact that if it was me, I wouldn't have been playing Nemanja Matic alongside Scott McTominay. I just think that's not a good midfield pairing. I think that I would have played Fred, and yes, he put in Fred with about 30 minutes to go again. But there's really not a lot that the man can do besides play what he's got. I'm confused by that. My positivity comes in the fact that at the end of the day, it feels like Ollie is not going to be able to win no matter what with people, because he's either going to play the experienced players, and then the experienced players won't perform because they don't fit what he's trying to do, or he's going to play the youth, and then people are going to bitch and complain when the youth isn't performing because they're needing to learn how to play against the big boys of the Premier League. Just give the guy time. Let him bring the 3 best players in this club right now are Dan James, Harry Maguire, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. There's no doubt about that. All 3 of those players were players that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted.
Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, and if that is any indication of where we can continue to go, those 3 players are indications of where he's wanting to go. I'm willing to give the guy time and bring in his players. Let him bring in his players and show what his system can do. Give the guy more than just one summer transfer window. Just stop.
and brilliant words, by the way. And that brings us quite nicely into the next segment of the podcast. And that is basically talking about the fan reaction over the last few days following these two performances, in particular the defeat to West Ham. Now, before I come to you guys, I had a little chat with Martin earlier, and I did put a tweet out today. It was a poll, actually, on the Talking Manchester United podcast account, and that tweet said, assuming the majority of the fan base had modest expectations for the team coming into this season, how are we all feeling about the team's position now after a handful of games? Not good enough? Is Ollie out of his depth? Or could be better? Trust the process. And the poll, the majority of fans that voted on here, at least anyway, have gone with, it could be better. We just need to trust the process. 61% went with that, whilst 39% are saying that Ollie is out of his depth and it's just not good enough. So you could argue that that's 39% are pretty much Ollie out, which is quite a large percent, although it is a minority. Now, Martin, you did touch on this earlier on today, so I don't know what you if you've got any thoughts you want to get off your chest.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know whether it was the end of the season or it might be the last couple of games. I mean, I remember putting a tweet out, and at the end of the season, I was like, look, because I'm going to go into the season with no expectation. I'm going to put the trust in the manager, because if there's a 3-year plan there, some progression in that 3 years, I'll stand by that. I'm not going to moan about the manager and these things. And I get what Andrew's saying in terms of the Glazers and the recruitment, and I'll come on to that in a second. But look, your Man United are so far behind the top 4 teams, so far behind. To expect us to be finishing the top 4 this season is completely unrealistic. Playing Arsenal on the weekend, what's my expectation of that game? I'm confident we're going to win, but it's a totally different scenario now, where my expectation is I want to watch the team and see improvement, whether that be a performance or seeing a plan in there, or injuries, and we should have recruited better in the summer. But unfortunately, the club is in a position where if they're not making money, then they'll make big snap decisions. At the minute, Man United are always going to make money. The fact that we sold Lukaku and didn't bring a replacement in, we brought 3 players. Top of the club is still sitting there with a revenue profit at this moment in time. If they've got a couple of years plan, I can't see them spending hundreds of millions of pounds and bringing 7 players in. We've seen 5 and 6 players come in on big money and it not work. So I'll put the trust in it at the minute, where we've got 3 players come in, bed them in. They want to play for the club, and it may be that other players that they were looking at didn't fit that mold. I'll sit on that process. To turn around and say, having that mentality that I have, and then 5 games in, the manager's wrong, get him sacked. The players aren't good enough. We need to bring in all these superstar players. You're contradicting what you want and what you want to see. Now, after like looking at, say, Liverpool. Now, Liverpool, before Klopp comes in, are in that, they're in that sort of position with us, as where they can string a good couple of wins together at the last hurdle, or there's something going on. They bring Klopp in, and each year they recruit very well. They bring 1 or 2 players in, and it proves them a little bit. If I can see that in 12 months' time, where either in January we bring 1 player in and it proves us again, then next summer we bring another 3 players in, as long as there's sustained improvement in there. But I think fans' reaction, just stay off Twitter, stay off social media on the weekends when the games are being played, because I just sit there and I just want to, lash out and say to people, but it's pointless, because, people can have their opinion and it's a snap opinion. But for me, is my expectation of where Man United are going and where they are at the minute, I can go, that squad isn't good enough at the minute to be competing at all levels. We can't compete in the FA Cup, the League Cup, the Europa, and the Premier League with that squad. It's impossible. So to me, this season is going to be a huge transition. And if Ed Woodward does what he claims to say and gives Ollie that time and gives him at least another 2 windows to see improvement, but I'm not going to sit here and think we're going to get in the top 4, we're going to win the FA Cup, we're going to win the Europa League. We're miles away from that, miles away.
And Andrew and Matthew, what are your guys' thoughts on the reaction? Because it's not something that only one or two people have said. There's a lot of fans within the fan base that are already against Ollie after such a short period of time. And when you consider various factors such as a lot of players leaving and not being replaced, that in itself reduces the depth of the squad. Not to mention the fact we've had some injuries to very key players as well. Is the reaction completely unjustified?
In regards to that poll, I wish I could have voted for both options, because I think right now Ole is a little bit out of his depth. Of
I think any manager at the moment would be out of their depth with this.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah, it's sort of the equivalent of trying to become a European giant again, and then trusting like a 17 or 18-year-old player to do it. Out of the depth for the first year or two, but once they get properly integrated to that role, and I think that's the kind of same situation with Ole at the moment. I think he's definitely not exempt from criticism whatsoever, which I definitely can criticise him, like his use of substitutions and the fact that they're way too late. Talk about the youngsters yet.
The substitutions thing has improved. I think anyway in the last few games. It's not waiting.
I think it's improved in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
But in general, I think, or at least he started off sort of thinking that every player who comes on as a substitute is going to be like him, and I can understand why he thinks that. At times are a little bit off, especially the West Ham game. I mean, you don't start McTominay and Matic in a midfield too, because it's just far too defensive, far too passive, and far too slow. He is having his hands tied behind his back here, because no matter what manager it is, you always have to go into a summer transfer window backing him from the board point of view. And the whole sort of all these first three signings are actually our best players this season is what's really saving him in the moment. And called Brexit FC and all that, but it's worked. His three signings have been fantastic so far. And really criticise any of them, because Dan James has been a massive surprise package, and credit to Ole for a player who could be good for us. And I'm sure Ryan Giggs helped a lot, and the fact that he's his national team manager. Wan-Bissaka, we needed a right back. Why not get one of the best in the league? And we did that. So I think Ole, in terms of transfers, is doing well. Transfers, and I hope that this call it a successful transfer window, because it wasn't, but our success in terms of so far at least buying these players and them turning out well isn't a message to the board to say, oh yeah, we can just keep doing that, we can just keep spending a little bit here and there and only buy a few players. We need to have more imprint philosophy on it. Not really seeing a proper style of play. Like, we're not pressing too much. We pressed maybe in the first 3 months of Ole, but not really as of late. We go with quick passing in between the lines because we don't see that a great deal. I think at the moment it's difficult to really pin down a style of play that we go for. I wish there was sort of like a both or neither option in some regards to that poll, but at the moment, I think any really sort of point of view in regards to pro Ole, or maybe saying he's not quite good enough for this job. Agree with any?
Definitely some good points. Go on, sorry.
Do you think conversation with some of your mates about this is that if Ollie is there for the next 3 years, I don't see him being the manager to win us a title. Getting the identity of the club back, I see him putting a plan in place. I think he'll be the manager that wins us a Premier League title, and that's just brutal honesty. It's just
I think looking at fans. Yeah.
Yeah, I just, for me, it's brilliant to have him there in terms of he knows what the club's all about. He knows a lot of people there, and at least he's got through. He must have got through to Ed Woodward on some level. Ed Woodward coming out and say, I mean, don't get us wrong, this is not me saying I like Ed Woodward, but he's coming out and saying we've got a plan in place in terms of we can we can spend huge amounts of money whenever we want and throwing the cash around, and they're just false promises. If there's a process there, then I want to see it carried out. But I don't think Ollie will be the one who brings us a league title again. I think the next recruitment after that has to follow that same philosophy that the club has, and not this what we've had for the past 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, pretty much. I think, like you said, Ole's definitely that person to try and get us into the top four. I can't see him winning every trophy on earth, but if we foundation in place and then get a player who's similar to Ole but better, Pochettino, he's not exactly been doing too well at Tottenham this season, but I mean, it's a few years in the future. Managers are going to come and go, but yeah, I'd agree.
And I do think as well. I think Martin touched on it earlier. Fans have opinions, and they usually snap opinions. Obviously, there is a lot of negativity out there surrounding Ollie as well. I mean, Andrew, you've not had your input yet on that yet. What are your thoughts?
See, I was with Martin, except to this extent that I didn't necessarily put an expectation on where we would finish in the league, and we said this in like the season preview. My opinion always was that when it comes time, we need to see an improvement in the style of play. The beginning of the year, we did see an improvement in the style of play. Statistics even show that we are improving in our press rate. United have been pressing more. I would say I haven't seen after the West Ham game, because I think that a lot of that came down to the fact that we are playing Nemanja Matic and Scott McTominay in a midfield, but our press rate is greater than any team in England before the West Ham game. We are pressing. We are doing things that we should be doing. We are seeing an improvement in the way that things are going. Just because doesn't mean that they're not going to come. A lot of this season, in my opinion, was going to come down to the fact that we needed to see an improvement in the style of play. And I think with players coming back from injury again, and with people getting better, like Mason Greenwood, like Angel Gomez, like Tahith Chong, Axel Tuanzebe, seeing people like that get better as the season goes on and grow with the club, I think that we could still wind up getting top four, because it's not like anybody's really separating themselves right now as a clear-cut top four team. Let's be real about that. There's nobody that's out
true.
here right
Very
now
true.
besides Liverpool and Manchester City. 3 and 4 are wide open because nobody else is separating themselves. And as we get people back, because I saw this, and I don't know who said it, but I saw it on Twitter, that how many teams in England could lose their number one left back, their best midfielder, and their best striker, and then still wind up competing across all competitions besides maybe Manchester City and Liverpool right now, because those are the only two clubs that have the depth to be able to do that. We are growing. There is going to be growing pains this season. There's going to be times where we're going to be frustrated this season, and I'm happy that it's happening early in the season, because I think that as the season grows and as we get better and these young players get better, we are going to get better and better as the season goes on. And Martin, I actually disagree with both you and Matthew. I think Ollie could be the guy to lead us back to what Manchester United is. It is possible that he could, because he is building something. You can see what he is trying to build, and you can see what he's trying to do inside of this. It's not immediate. Success is if you want to build something right, are you going to try and build it overnight and possibly have things go wrong, and then you'll have to scrap the entire thing, or are you going to slowly build it and build a good foundation, do things the right way, And I think Ollie is doing that. I think Ollie is building things the right way. He's doing things the way that they should be done. You don't turn things around overnight. And Martin, like you said, if you want to see the recruitment be done properly. I don't care where the guys come from, whether it's from the UK or from anywhere else in the world. As long as they are the right players, continue to bring them in. That's what matters. Make it be
I
the
hope
right
Ollie
way.
is the guy. I think it'd be fairy tale if Ollie's the guy to do it. I think the thing that I have in terms of what I think Ollie can do, but then that's just me thinking if Ollie's the guy to do it, then it'll be amazing. Do you know what I mean? And I do have total faith in terms of what he's setting out to do, and that's why I think even when the results are going bad for us this season, is that if we can see the improvement, as you say, and the identity comes, I think fans are they need to be patient. See where we are. Middle of the season. But again, if we're sitting sixth or seventh after Christmas, I'm not going to be sitting here going, it's not good enough. Ollie needs to go. He brought in 3 players. That squad isn't his in any capacity. That squad has been ripped up and torn up and rebuilt. It's got no identity whatsoever. Those players, that even though they've had a full pre-season, way longer. I mean, look at you've got to look at the current teams in the Premier League who've had the same manager for more than 3 years. And if you go back, excluding City, because City's team was pot, basically was able to put his stamp on that from day one. He was able to have everything he wanted in the space of 2 windows. But you look at like Spurs, and you look at Liverpool. There's natural progression there every year. It's better. It gets better. It gets better. Cycle since 7 years, we've not been a cycle where we can say next season I expect this. Next season I expect that. Man United under Mourinho was where we almost did we finish second?
Yes.
I mean that in itself was a disaster because that season was atrocious. The only reason we got second was because of the teams falling behind us. But like that season was awful football. It was such a falsification of where we thought we were. And then we went into the next season thinking, we finished second. We just need a couple of signs and we'll be competing. More fool us for thinking that. And, McTominay getting the Mourinho Special Player Award. It was, you've got to start again. And I think that's what Ollie's doing. So I personally will give him to start seeing that progression.
And speaking of, a process, etc., time being needed for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to put his process, time needed before we start seeing the rewards from this. The club did release, or a club spokesman did release a statement a couple of weeks back, which has surfaced recently and been being spoken about quite a lot recently. Where, in a nutshell, just talking about how the club are fully committed to the long-term plan that they have in place with Ollie and that they will back Ollie financially. Also, that they... I forgot what it was now. But basically, it was just saying that they're committed to the cause, essentially, and that they do prioritise the footballing side of the club over the commercial side of the club, which obviously until now, and I'll come to that in a moment, hasn't seemed very true. Now, before we go into too much detail, again, I'll go back to Twitter on this because we did put a tweet out quoting ESPN UK, who put an image up of quotes from that statement, asking the fans what their thoughts were. And Andy United said, falling into the same pattern as last season, all talk and not delivering on the pitch. So again, basically saying that they're just telling us what we want to hear. Michael Stow says it's the greatest work of fiction since Romeo and Juliet. And then Rob Allen says, it depends on what they do next. By selling first, the squad looks bare and areas of weakness are evident. If January and summer brings new players to strengthen these areas, then this statement represents a blueprint. If it doesn't, then it's a piece of fiction. J. Andrew, I don't think the club is totally at fault here, except for appointing crap managers. They went from Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, after a crap spell at Chelsea, and now Ollie. The problem is in appointing the wrong managers. So that's what the fans are thinking of the statement that was made. I'm guessing you guys have seen it. I'm obviously not going to read out the whole statement because that's just pointless. Anyone can find it just by Googling it. But again, it's just saying that they're backing Ollie, they're going to back him financially. The priority is the football, not the commercial side of things, and that there is a process and that, you know, it's happening. What are your thoughts?
I think quite a lot of it is just absolute pandering nonsense. However, I have this one question. I've not seen anyone else ask it. Why have they released a statement now? That now is the right time to release this kind of statement.
Well, I think the statement itself was actually released a couple of weeks ago, apparently.
Okay, yeah.
In a Manchester United forum, the fan club forum. But for some reason, it's only just making its way into mainstream media now. So yeah, I mean that is a good question.
That was really my biggest question. Like, why did he need to bring it out just now? But if it's been released, a few weeks ago, then fair enough.
I mean, I think it's because they have the annual conference call, don't they, where they flex a bit of muscle and say, look at all this money that we've made and look at all these improvements that we made. And I think they're saying that they're backing Ollie and stuff, but I'm not reading too much into it. I mean, fair enough. I like the fact that they're not just coming out and bragging about their social media clicks like they have in the past. And God, with this massive entity, and the fact that they've talked about Ollie and that
they have a little bit. They have said that all the transfer speculation.
Oh yeah,
he said that, and he admitted himself. A lot of it has no foundation. It is just rubbish, but it does generate a lot of media frenzy around the clubs. Media outlets.
I mean, the phrase says our ever-growing global fan base. I mean, that's just like, well, yeah, but what are you measuring that on? You're measuring that on your likely. That's where I'm thinking growing like global fan base is winning trophies and all this, but we haven't won anything major. That's all going to be a load of BS, really, isn't it, in terms of like the social media and people, Man United trending and things like that. But as I say, the bits where he's talking about Ollie in the process, it's good to sort of see that that's been echoed, not just Ollie saying that in the odd interview and stuff. Is that and see if that is proven before I take Ed Woodward as saying anything truthful.
Well,
I have faith in the manager, but when the board is saying it, I kind of then go, I don't know. It kind of makes me a little bit more skeptical. I don't know why. I think it's just I don't trust that man in any way.
What about yourself, Andrew? What are your thoughts? A load of rubbish, or do you think there's some genuine? It's a genuine statement.
That's a difficult one to answer. But here's the thing: because it's being said from the top down, I would say that it is probably a genuine statement that they're trusting the process of hey, we're not going to do this overnight. As much as reactionary culture of the modern day would say that we want the rebuild overnight. I would say that the evidence is there that this is going to be a slow rebuild, and they're going to give him time. I mean, as the old saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. And, yes, we were Rome for a bit there, but even Rome fell. And we're at a time right now where we kind of need to, at a certain point, you need to back somebody. We obviously didn't back David Moyes. LVG, I mean, I would say probably was backed more than Mourinho, but Mourinho was also backed to an extent. But nobody as a manager has truly been backed to this point.
I think with LVG and Mourinho as well, I don't think well, we know because they've said it themselves now, they weren't getting the players that they wanted. And that's something that I've suspected over the years, that, you know, they never ever seemed happy with the players that they were getting. I was always convinced, you know, these aren't our first choice players, surely not. And it came to be true because they both said it. But
Yeah,
we're
no,
seeing
and that's
something
exactly
different now.
And that's exactly it. Is I think that now we are seeing finally that a manager is getting his first choice players, his players that he wants to get in. Because some of the first people we were linked to when the summer started were Harry Maguire and and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Those were some of the first people we were linked to, meaning that those were probably the people that Ollie was saying, "Hey, these are the guys I want. These are the first two guys I want." And then all of a sudden, the Dan James stuff happened, and we got him too. And I think that there is a process that's going to happen, and we have not historically been a club to buy in January. We've been more of a club to sell in January. But I think we could actually see players bought in January for the first time in a long time. Be at least one player bought in January. And I think it'll all depend on players being in and or out of Champions League and whether we'll be getting them. Because we at a certain point we need to start you need to have the process go a little bit faster because of who Manchester United are, and because Manchester United are aware that they are a massive global entity. At a certain point, they have to realize that if they don't continue the rebuild, at least in a somewhat quick process, there are going to be people that are going to choose to not support Manchester United because they are from a different country, and they don't have to have that loyalty. That's never going to be who I am, but there are people out there that will be like that, and they will go to the bandwagon team. So hopefully we see players bought in January, and hopefully this statement from whoever and is actually a fact, because I would say that the actions speak louder than the words, and the actions show that they believe that they are more of a commercial entity than a footballing club.
Yeah, I think that's definitely been the case. Certainly up until now, and that may well continue. But Ike Iguala here in the live chat in Discord here says the owners have sold every manager that has come in short. How do they expect us to believe they would get it right? It's bullshitting. Now it's okay, I can swear, because since I've uploaded this new podcast feed to every outlet, I've actually made a note on there that there is explicit content. So I don't mind swearing. But yeah, he does say it's bullshitting. They sold Fergie short, they sold Moyes short, they sold Van Gaal short, they sold Mourinho short, and they're selling Ollie short. I have a slight different take on it. Now, maybe this is just me wanting to be positive. Maybe I'm a fool, maybe I'm gullible. I don't know. But when I read that they are, fully backing the process, they're backing Ollie, they'll give him the time that he needs, the money that he needs. Obviously, I'm not expecting us to go out and spend 300 million in the summer. That's very rarely done. But I think the evidence is there. One of the topics that Ed Woodward was asked about in the conference call earlier today was the director of football role. He didn't confirm whether or not there was going to be a director of football, but what he did say, to summarise, was that the outside focus on that role is recruitment. And he said that, in recent years, that area of the business has been improved, and that evidence of that has been in the summer transfer window. And you can't argue that point. You look at okay, we didn't bring in as many players as we needed to, but the players we did bring in, we needed, and they're players that fit the profile. Harry Maguire really wanted to play for Manchester United, and he's a top centre-back. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, one of the best right-backs in the country, absolutely thrilled to come and play for Manchester United. Daniel James, don't need to say anything about him. He's had a very good start to United, and you've seen what it means to him to play for the club. The profile of the players that have been brought in this summer just gone is absolutely spot on. Yes, we needed a couple more, but maybe the ones that were available didn't quite fit the profile. We've had to wait for them. Fair enough. Again, it's a process. As long as we can see it, then it's fine. But also he did touch on some key contract renewals. David De Gea, Anthony Martial, Luke Shaw, Victor Lindelof and Marcus Rashford. All players that ideally, up until now, we would have wanted to keep hold of. So he's got all those deals done over the line, those 3 signings. So you can't really argue with that. The evidence is there that this process is being backed. Now, obviously, there are going to be things you can say, oh, yeah, but we've still got Ashley Young, we've still got Phil Jones, we've still got other players, but a lot of the deadwood is left. Imagine we got rid of those players as well, where we would be right now. Absolutely shafted. You can't just get rid of everyone in one go. It's impossible. So, yeah, for me, I believe in the process. I believe when Ed Woodward says that he's going to back Ollie and back the process, purely because of what we've seen in the summer. Again, that might just be me being a gullible, being a fool, but I want to believe it. I want to believe it. I think that we all just need to calm down, trust the process, go with the ups and downs that we're going to see over the next couple of years, and just hope that the process works. I don't know what you guys think, or if you've got anything to add.
I think that is bang on, if I'm honest. I mean, don't get us wrong. There's a lot of crap in the statement, which I'm just like, yeah, that's just sort of a bit of a flex in terms of. But
which they've got.
I think,
to be fair to their investors, they have to do.
Of course they do. But I think, as you say, I would love to be sitting here in 3 or 4 years' time. You've got a natural. You know where the club's going. Okay, fair enough. You know, if in 3 years' time we are competing for a title and the football's fantastic and all those people are still in that position and we've recruited well, do you know what I mean? Then that's amazing. So that's where I'm at. I'm at this point of saying I will put some trust in that statement that came out. You know, and I believe that the board are learning from their mistakes, and that they're not just saying these false promises because they just want to keep making money. The football has to come first. The club has to come first.
Absolutely, 100%. Any of you guys, Matthew or Andrew, have anything to add to that before we wrap up?
Don't really think so. I think we covered pretty much everything.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, I'll just go over to Twitter anyway, because we did put a tweet out, as we do, saying that the podcast is being recorded. Let us know if you've got any topics or questions or anything like that. I think we had a couple of replies. Again, I've been tweeting other things since I put that tweet out, so that tweet has sort of got lost in the way. Let me just see if I can find it quickly. Here we go. So, good morning, Reds. Tonight we're recording this week's podcast. If you've got any questions or topic suggestions, then get them in below. Michael Stow, if Ollie goes all in on the youth and we finish 8th, but learn who is good enough, are you okay with that? Garner, Chong, Gomez and Greenwood get at least 30 starts is what I mean by all in. So guys, if that was to happen and we finish 8th mid-table, but every single one of those youth players gets a huge amount of game time and we learn who's good and who isn't, is that something you'd be okay with?
For the most part,
yeah.
is a bit of a eight is a bit of a push. No, I'm just joking. I think it's a dream scenario that they all play well and get minutes and we make improvements. But yeah, I want to see the promise of the youth, but I think you still need to recruit well, people to put around them to be well. So identity of that, like our midfield and all that needs to be sorted out, and you can blood them in. I don't think it's as easy as just saying that they all get at least 30 appearances and that's great, because what happens if we have bad games and they play in and it knocks their confidence? And so I get why Ollie's being careful with when he plays them. Because I think if he just threw them in, a bit like when Van Gaal was throwing in youngsters and they were having an awful 10, 15 minutes, then he took them off and we never saw them again for weeks on end. So he's got to choose the right games for it.
Timothy Fosu-Mensah springs to mind when you say that with Louis van Gaal.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
made that tackle, didn't he? I forget who it was against, but it wasn't a penalty. It was a good tackle. But the penalty was given, and then he was brought off, and then we didn't see him again for a while. And that was probably one of the worst things that Van Gaal did.
It was the FA Cup semi-final.
You have a good memory, son.
Yeah, everyone talks about Van Gaal, how great he was with youth players. But he gave them 1 or 2 games, and if they didn't perform, he was like, nope, I'm just yeeting you out of the squad for now. But the same thing happened to, who was it, Paddy McNair? He wouldn't have been a United player, but he had such a solid first few games. And then he had one poor game, I think it was against Southampton, and brought him off half-time, you never saw him again. It's being ruthless, but you've got to do it at a certain time, and that wasn't the time. Right now, actually, a few people are writing him off. You can't really do that. You've got to give him more games to properly analyse him and see, all right, well, this is how good he is. This is how suited he's going to be to senior football. And he's going to be like, nah, I don't really rate you.
How old's Chong? Is he 17 or 18?
Oh no, he's 19. He's 20 this year.
He's 19. Sorry. With what happened with Marcus Rashford being so young and having 5 seasons under him now, it's freakish when that happens. So you can't expect the same of all these players. Like when he breaking onto the scene at Everton, Michael Owen. In terms of the Premier League, can you think of 10 players who at the age of 16, 17, 18 made such a big impact, and that all of these young players are going to exceed at this stage? It's some players don't hit that until they're 22, 23. That they haven't matured yet. So I think with like Chong and all them, is that I'm more than happy for them to get game time. But if they have a bad game, it's not the end of the world. They're so young. They need to learn their trade, and into the first team must be huge. I can't even imagine what that must be like.
I think that's exactly.
I think a lot of it is desperation as well. I think because of the state the club's in at the moment and the fact that we're not mixing it with the big guns, I think a lot of fans are just very, very impatient. You can kind of understand why, but you do need to take a step back sometimes.
No, and that's exactly it. I think that, believe me, I'm one of the first people to say, hey, you know what, let's play the kids and give them a run. But at the same time, you give them too much too soon, and it could ruin their confidence. And then you wind up, with a player that's a could have been, And I think that there are exceptions to that because I think that you can see talent in players. I think that there's people like Mason Greenwood that need to, I think, get actual starts, actual Premier League minutes, and against more than just the bottom 5-6 clubs in England. I think that you need to see him get starts against. I actually think that he would have gotten the start against West Ham if he had been healthy. And players like that need to be getting game time. I think that Angel Gomez is one of those players that I think he'll need to be. It'll be smart to manage who he's going against. I think it's the same thing with Tahith Chong. That'll be smart to manage who he's going against. I think the only other guy that you could say that, and we could talk about this another day, but the only guy that I would say that you should probably start getting him some Premier League minutes is Axel Tuanzebe, and give him starts alongside Harry Maguire, because
I'm not even kidding. You've like literally read my mind.
Yeah,
I don't think any of us have talked about him this whole podcast. And when you go back to Van Gaal giving him his start,
well, and Axel is the size of a grown man at 21. I mean, he is no baby out there, and he has a physical presence, and the only way that he is going to get better is with game time. he already has all the he is a great defender, and you could see it. You saw it against Astana in the moments where they would break through, that he would stop anything defensively. It's his distribution that he needs to work on, and the only way he's going to get better at his distribution is to actual game time. Victor Lindelof right now is at a point where I would say that his distribution is really starting to slide off, and defensively, he isn't as solid as Axel Tuanzebe. I think that is pretty much a fact. I think you could make an argument that Axel is better defensively. And if Lindelof's distribution is going to start sinking, you need to give Axel minutes. And Axel, to me, is defensively what Mason Greenwood is offensively. So give him the minutes, and I would say give him the minutes now in this next game against Arsenal.
I think if we,
I'm sure
we
he'll
had
play
the look,
tomorrow, won't he, against Rochdale, as will Greenwood.
yeah, I think he will.
Oh yeah, no, I think you'll see Gomez, Chong, Greenwood, Axel. I think you'll see them all against Rochdale.
His Tuanzebe's already played against the big teams under Mourinho, and if you cast your mind back to one of the games against Arsenal in particular,
yes,
he played it right back.
Yes.
Even though we lost, he was man of the match by an absolute countryman. So Axel has that big game experience. It's just about giving him time now.
Yeah, I think as well. I mean, he played in the Championship all last year. He's had that taste of high pressure, and then obviously in the playoffs with Villa and stuff. He's for me, he's the third choice when you look at the bench since the start of the season. So I think he's in that position where if we get an injury to, say, Lindelof or Maguire, I think Tuanzebe is the one who would probably come in ahead of Jones and Marcus Rojo. In terms of just even the interview, the pre-match interview before Astana, I was impressed with just what he was talking about and saying that he's bided his time. He's gone out and had the experience. He had the conversation with Ollie, and they both agreed that his natural progressional route was to stay at the club. United were in a better position in terms of the squad they had. I think you would have seen either Chong or Gomez go out on loan. I think one of them would have gone on loan, and I think it would have been good for them. But then they're at the club because they're on the fringe of getting games. If the squad was bigger, I don't think both of them would have been on the bench every week, or they're in at least one match day squad every 7 days. So, but it is a positive and a, can you say like a positive negative, that they're not going to get games under their belt or 30 games under their belt where they get that experience of playing week in, week out, but they're so young still. So even the fact that they're in the position that they are, even if they only play 10 games a season, I don't think they would have played 10 games a season had we had a field that we'd built over the past 5 years. So, I like that, the fact that we're in that position, but give them a lot of patience.
And there are a few more tweets as well, but time's getting on a little bit, so I think it's probably a good idea to wrap it up now. It's already been an hour and 10 minutes. So again, guys, thank you as always for joining me. Andrew, thank you for joining us once again. Did you want to give out your details?
For sure, yeah. At Red Bearded Red on Twitter, the Red Bearded Red on YouTube. Being in Texas, I'm hoping I wasn't able to do a West Ham preview. By the way, I think that I just need to start doing previews and reviews all the time, because anytime I've done them this year, we have done a preview and a review this year. We have won. So
there you go.
Ex facto, I need to do every single preview and review I can.
Excellent. And as and when I can, I'll join you for those.
I would absolutely love that. We'll maybe we can get the whole entire gang on.
Yes. And Martin, thank you for joining us. Do you want to give out your details?
Yeah, thank you very much. You can follow me on Twitter at Martin H. Peart.
And Matthew, thank you for joining us, pal. Is he there? Or has he gone?
You to myself. Great, that's what you want to do. Thanks for having me on again. Twitter is @_Matthew, and go to offsidegraphics.com as well.
Excellent. And as always, thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to us ramble. All the links that the guys have just given you can be found in the podcast description on YouTube, and any podcast app that displays the description, you'll find the links to all of their Twitter accounts, stores, YouTube channels, etc., etc. It's all there. It's all there. So yeah, we'll be back next week again, Tuesday. Hopefully, at least one of the guys will be able to join. Yeah, thank you all for listening. Share the podcast, give us your thoughts, and we'll be back next week.